Hi everyone. Please ignore my mess in the background. We're actually in the process of moving to a house. Um, but the assignment for today. I know many chose to speak on Juneteenth. Although I believe it is an important topic and date, I found it was more important to me to look further into the history behind the education of the slaves who were freed and how that developed into what we have today. I'm sure we're all well aware of the segregation that developed after slavery was abolished. This new freedom led to the development of many educational institutions for Black Americans who would otherwise not have access to higher education. Many schools and colleges were developed from the support of local religious and civic organizations. Um, because without education, the newly freed slaves were limited in their ability to secure gainful employment, communicate with family and friends by writing and reading letters, and even in protecting their own freedom. Because, as we know, at that time, especially the southern former slaveholders would do whatever they could to hold back the newly freed Black Americans. Um, One thing I found inspiring was that the newly freed were intent on developing their own educational system. They all worked together to develop that system, bring in Black teachers, and organize their own educational standard. Probably to the frustration and irritation of many white educational professionals and even probably the government, from what I read. Even though even though this education caused much fear to many Southerners, there were those poor white Americans who the doors were open to so that they could receive education as well. That because without that, they were otherwise unable to afford a good education, or even some of them even unable to attend school. Um, there was the Morel Act of 1862, and it should have been great because they were providing over 10 million acres of land that was to be distributed throughout the states to be allocated for public schools. Unfortunately, the land that they were providing was taken from Native Americans, and oftentimes that land was sold off, and the funds used for white uh, white school programs. Thankfully, there was a second Morel Act that was passed in 1890, and that act provided land for Black universities and colleges. And one of the things that the National Museum of African American History spoke about was that Booker T. Washington used this opportunity to secure land for the Tuskegee University. Uh, One of the issues was in building the facility, and he ensured that the library would be built by the students, and that's what secured the funding. This labor that the students did not only provided financial means to pay for their tuition, but it also provided them with education and skills for their life after um, school. And I really have to say that it is really humbling and inspiring to me to think that around 4 million newly freed persons, of which many were illiterate, they managed to work together to build over 90 higher education institutions and HBCUs. From these original 90, I found out that there are 104 active historically black college and universities today. And we're honored, at least I am, to be part of one of them as a student with Central State University.